So we're going to wait a couple minutes just to make sure everybody has an opportunity to join us. Whomever recently joined us, are waiting a couple more minutes to give everybody an opportunity to join us. We had one or two other people that were signing in, and I think we're stuck in the waiting room. And so as soon as they left the waiting room. So as soon as we get that back, we'll go ahead and get started. I want to respect everybody's time. We'll give it 3 more minutes. 6:05. You start in 1 minute. Okay, I think we're going to go ahead and get started. Good evening. I want to thank you for joining us for this Road Impact Fee Public Workshop. My name is John Tukanich. I'm the Innovation and Performance Division Director, of which the county's Impact Fee Program is one of our division's responsibilities. A few housekeeping matters to begin. There'll be a presentation by the county, followed by a presentation from our Impact Fee Study Consultant, Negan Camp, with Tyndale Oliver. After the presentations are completed, attendees can provide their questions or comments in the chat box. Also, in order to ensure we properly document your questions and respond to the person asking a question, please take a moment and add your name. I see we have everybody that has done that so far. Before we get underway, I would like to announce that County Commissioners Linda Bartz and Kathy Townsend may be joining us in attendance at this meeting for the purposes of hearing stakeholder comments and concerns. Staff that is present this evening include Joe Sabater, our Impact Fee Program Manager, Teresa Francis, our Impact Fee Fiscal Coordinator, Patrick Dayan, our Assistant Public Works Director, and Ben Balser, our Assistant Planning and Development Services Director. So I'm going to go ahead and start the presentation, and to maximize the screen for everybody. Here we go. I'd like to begin by stating sorry about that, technical difficulty. I'd like to begin by stating that the county is not opposed to mobility planning, and more specifically, the City of Port St. Lucie's decision to adopt its mobility plan and fee. When we say that, we invariably get asked, then how did we get here? I'll try to answer that, provide some information, and then our consultant, Negan Camp with Tyndale Oliver, will provide a presentation on the draft road impact fee study update report. The draft road impact fee update report is available on the county's website at stlucieco.gov/impact fees. You will also find the proposed schedule that leads to adoption of the revised road impact fee ordinance and the ability to submit comments online. Impact fees have been around since the mid-1980s. They are assessed on new development and based on the impact the development will have on existing public infrastructure and facilities. The county's road impact fee has been in place since 1985, and it has been updated periodically to comply with statutory requirements. It was last updated in 2018 and implemented in 2019. This update currently has certainly generated or garnered a lot of attention compared to the previous update of the impact fee report. When the county considered the 2018 road impact fee study, the process in large measure due to the county seeking to implement the fully calculated impact fee rate at 100% provided for meetings with stakeholders, several public meetings, and public hearings to adopt the new impact fee ordinance. Interestingly, the county did not receive any comments from our municipal partners or concerned stakeholders before or during the public hearings. So I just briefly want to touch on these two statements, and why we're here. Beginning in late 2020 and early 2021, the county first began hearing the city of Port St. Lucie asserting that they were not receiving their fair share of impact fees collected. Moreover, the city began questioning how the county was utilizing road impact fees. Early documents prepared on behalf of the city of Port St. Lucie, specifically an impact fee white paper, was prepared suggesting the city was not receiving its fair share of impact fees from the county. The county certainly takes issue with several assertions and some of the recommendations of the white paper, and hopefully the information provided this evening will better inform our residents and stakeholders. As you are likely aware, the city and county entered into a road impact fee interlocal agreement on September 20th, 2011, and we were operating under that interlocal agreement until October 1st of 2021. The city provided the county its notice of intent to terminate the interlocal agreement on January 25th, 2021, and there are several provisions in the agreement. I would like to highlight one section in particular. Please bear with me as I believe this is critical to the question of whether the city of Port St. Lucie was receiving its fair share of impact fees. The agreement provided that the city would collect the county's impact fees during the building permit process. The city would collect the total county impact fee, but the city would retain the portion determined by the city, its adopted road impact fee, as well as up to 4% administrative costs related to collecting the fees. The balance was then remitted to the county. An important provision of the interlocal agreement allowed the city to credit and retain the city's imposed road impact fees against the collected county road impact fee, again up to 50% of the county's road impact fee. It has been questioned where and how that amount was determined. The county did not determine that amount of the city road impact fee. The city is responsible for the city roads, and the city determined and adopted its own road impact fee rates. Where the credit or discount come into play is the county's previous study determined the full impact fee to the road system, and the county was, one, recognizing the city was responsible for its road, and whatever the city's impact fee was, we were deducting from the county's road impact fee, up to the 50% provision, of which I might add never kicked in. And two, it was intended that those in the city would not pay greater development fees than those in the unincorporated area, or what we call the same fee provision. Essentially, it was a recognition that it should be a level playing field from a development cost standpoint. The 50% credit is an important provision, especially when the county suddenly hears the city is not getting its fair share. Again, the credit amount was based on the city's adopted impact fee amount. The county in no way influenced or determined the amount of the city's impact fee. What is surprising and extremely important, especially when you hear claims the city is or was not getting their fair share of road impact fees, is the city had the ability to substantially increase its share of impact fee revenues through this provision of the interlocal agreement, but they didn't. Allow me to provide a brief illustration to this. This slide details the additional impact fee revenue the the city could have realized based on the development of a 2,300 square foot single family home. The county's road impact fee is $5,130, and the city's road impact fee, or former road impact fee, was $1,169. Under the provisions of the interlocal agreement, the city could have retained a credit for city road impact fees up to 50% of the county's road impact fee. Prior to terminating the interlocal agreement, the city was retaining 26.8% of the county's road impact fee, including the 4% collections administration fee. The city could have raised its road impact fee to $2,565. Again, the provisions of the agreement provided for up to 50% credit for the city impact fees, and when including the 4% collections administrative fee, the city could have been retaining 54% of the county's road impact fee. Thus, the city could have collected and retained more than double that amount in road impact fee revenues under the single-family residential scenario, the 2,300 square foot home, and the end user, permit holder, or developer would not have experienced any increase to their development impact fees. I mentioned the city's impact fee white paper. This was prepared by a consultant and included in the white paper. It details the amount of funds expended on various road projects, and more specifically highlights 6 roads that were listed in the interlocal agreement. In fact, table 4 in this slide as presented is an excerpt from the white paper. Where the impact fee white paper fails, it doesn't present the plans and costs for future projects, such as Glades Cutoff Road and Midway Road. For Glades Cutoff Road, the county estimates $78.1 million in road projects planned, and for Midway Road, $88.6 million in projects. Additionally, in the records provided to the city, several other projects that were completed by St. Lucie County using impact fees were provided. 2 that come to mind: Erosa Boulevard improvements and Leonard Road improvements. But these were not included in the white paper regarding the county's use of impact fees that are within or benefit the city of Port St. Lucie. I think it is noteworthy that a large amount of the data and information on which the white paper is based is from county records provided to their city in response to various public records requests throughout 2020. In addition to the information they requested, the information on future projects was provided, but the white paper merely notes a list of future planned/needed roadway improvements projects that projects the county may fund using impact fees was provided. But they never detailed the list of the projects or discussed how they would benefit the city of Port St. Lucie. This next slide may be familiar to many who have attended or participated in some of the meetings, as it has been presented by the city on multiple occasions as background on the impact fee issue and used to establish or justify the city's needs for more control over impact fees or fees generated within the city limits. However, we don't believe this slide tells the full story when it comes to the use and programming of county road impact fees. The statement at the bottom of the slide, and you can see the arrow there, indicates only 36% or 16 million of the 44.2 million of projects in the county's fiscal year 2021 to 2025 capital improvement plan are within the city limits. 2 points. 1, the missing and critical factor is the recognition of the county's responsibility for the county road network, and yes, directed at those impacts that are a result of growth and development in the city of Port St. Lucie. The city was retaining funds based on the adopted city road impact fee for local city road projects. The county's portion is for projects to the county regional road system. To this point, please look at the table wherein it notes projects within the city of PSL, and then below you'll see it notes projects north of Midway. We've highlighted projects in light blue boxes that will impact and benefit the city of Port St. Lucie. When you include those projects, the amounts actually total 42.5 million or 96% versus the 16 million or 36% presented by the city. Second point, and I think a significant shortcoming in this slide presented by the city, is they focus exclusively on the 5-year capital improvement plan projected expenses related to road projects. You can see that by looking at the far right column that is highlighted. Doing so in our opinion, is short-sighted as it fails to consider the long-range costs, not to mention the expenses that preceded the 5-year planning period. This slide further depicts the projects of the county's current 5-year capital improvement plan related to road impact fees. It identifies county road projects within the cities or within the city or within 2 miles of the city limits. I think we all can agree the impacts of development occurring in the city doesn't stop at city boundaries. It extends beyond them. The projects are depicted in bold, and when you compare these to the 5-year capital improvement plan, the county, again, is committing 96% of its expenditures, impact fees, in or within 2 miles of the city. Interestingly, according to St. Lucie Transportation Planning Organization Director Peter Buchwald, the county has only one failing road, and that's Midway Road. And this happens to be one of the county's priority projects and certainly a road of significant importance to the future of the city of Port St. Lucie and the county. A review of the 5-year capital improvement plan, as presented in the previous slide, reveals the county will be expending $3.5 million in fiscal year 2022 and $8 million in fiscal year 2025 on Midway Road. That's $11.5 million. And then it notes further that the anticipated future project costs total $88.6 billion for the roadway. This slide presents the county's updated fiscal year 2022 to 2026 5-year capital improvement plan for road projects funded by impact fees. In addition to identifying the capital improvement costs over the 5-year planning period, it includes a column to the far right that identifies the future anticipated needs or costs. The 5-year capital improvement plan identifies projects and costs related to planning, design, engineering, and rights-of-way acquisition activities. And these are all necessary activities and expenses that lead up to the construction of a roadway project. The future anticipated needs column represent the future project costs of the proposed projects in out years. And more importantly, they reflect a more accurate measure of the county's investment and commitment to the county road system for the region and to the benefit of the city. We are not just now presenting this information in response to the city's claims of not getting its fair share. This spreadsheet, specifically the one for fiscal year 2021 to 2025, was provided to the city on December 18th, 2020. Additionally, it should be noted that this information has been presented to city staff on multiple occasions, as well as at a joint meeting between the City Council and County Commission. The far right column was labeled out-year costs versus future anticipated needs. The only difference is the numbers were updated to reflect the county's new fiscal year 2022 to 2026 5-year capital improvements plan related to roads and impact fees. When looking at fair share and how much the county is investing in the city of Port St. Lucie, another way the county invests in both the city and the county road network is in the form of issuing impact fee credits to developers. These are county-approved credits against impact fees for improvements the development community will be making versus the county collecting the impact fees and programming the improvements. These improvements are necessitated due to the impact of the development. And the county accordingly is recognizing and approving and providing impact fee credits. The county is foregoing the collection of impact fee revenues in exchange for developer improvements to the road network, and these improvements have and will continue to substantially benefit both the city and the county. Countywide, the county has approved more than $120 million in road impact fee credit agreements, of which more than $119 million benefit the city of Port St. Lucie. This map identifies those impact fee credits, at least that are completed, partially completed, and planned. Where would the city or county be? Better, how would we accommodate this development without the county approving road impact fee credit agreements? The private development community has or will provide these roadway improvements identified in the box, and that will enhance our collective road network to facilitate and accommodate development within the city of Port St. Lucie that impacts both the city and county roads. And it's not just within the box. If you look to the north, you'll see a arterial A, a blue line, it's highlighted, and there's several others. Again, these impact fee credits, the county is foregoing the associated revenues in exchange for road improvements to the benefit of the city and the county. As noted earlier, on January 25th, 2021, the city noticed the county its intent to terminate the interlocal agreement effective October 1st, 2021. The county has its road impact fee, and the city had its road impact fee. In adopting the city mobility fee and replacing its road impact fee with a mobility fee, the city increased its fee at a much higher rate. For a single-family house of approximately 2,300 square feet, the city road impact fee was $1,169, and now the mobility fee is $4,082. That's a substantial increase of more than 249%. Repeatedly, the city's consultant and others have stated at public meetings the county cannot charge its road impact fee. First, the issue of the county charging its road impact fee has been previously litigated, of which the city was a party to the legal proceedings, and it was found that the county unquestionably had the right to do so to assess and collect its impact fees. The court further found in the final judgment the city's ordinance unenforceable in terms of county road impact fees not being collected in the city. As a reminder, the county's road impact fee has been in place since 1985, and its 2018 update was implemented in 2019. In comparison, prior to the city engaging in mobility planning, the city last updated its road impact fees in 2013. At the outset, I shared one of the more frequent questions we hear. How did we get here, and why is this important? What we believe is critical and central to this matter is responsibility for roads. Who is responsible and accountable for county roads, and what do those responsibilities entail? The Florida statutes provide a framework that identifies who has the authority and responsibility for state, county, and local roads. According to that framework, the county is responsible for county roads, regardless if they are outside or inside the city limits, and that responsibility is not limited to maintaining the road. It includes planning, development, and constructing roads to benefit the region and the county road system. Additionally, there is another provision of the Florida statutes whereby governmental entities that are not responsible for providing, financing, operating, or regulating public facilities needed to serve development may not establish binding level of service standards on government entities that do bear those responsibilities. We all recognize growth and development in one community affects another and certainly affects the entire county. And regarding this issue, the county road system. In fact, one data point that clearly demonstrates this is noted in the city's Tischler-Bice impact fee study for other impact fees, but it notes 82.5% of city residents are employed outside the city. Clearly, we know the impacts extend far beyond personal travel. It includes the movement of goods and commerce supporting businesses and households. According to the city ordinance adopting its mobility plan and mobility fee schedule, the city shall no longer collect a road impact fee on behalf of the county as the city asserts the mobility plan, and more specifically the mobility fee, fully mitigates impacts of development on the county road system. Again, the court previously ruled the county can collect its impact fee, quote unquote, without question. The county is responsible for the road system, and at no time did the county provide consent or delegate planning responsibility to the city for the county road system. The city never consulted or coordinated with the county on including county roads in its mobility plan. Without any authority, the city has unilaterally identified corridor improvements to county roads amounting to, according to the mobility plan technical report, nearly $180 million or 23.3% of the cost for mobility corridor improvements. The county respects the city's home rule authority to adopt the mobility plan, but it has fundamental concerns of the city unilaterally preempting or usurping the county from carrying out its statutory responsibilities with regard to county roads. The county respects the city's decision to adopt the mobility plan for roads under its jurisdiction. and the city should respect the county's jurisdiction over its county roads. Why is this important? Well, the county has concerns regarding the city's mobility plans. I want to focus on two that directly affect the county: cost and responsibility. County staff and our consultants have been unable to replicate the cost for identified improvements to county roads as listed in the city's mobility plan. In fact, we find costs are significantly underestimated, anywhere between 40 to 200%. This is very troubling, especially considering the city's mobility plan and ordinance suggests the city plan and fee will be fully mitigating for the impacts to county roads. First, the city in the mobility plan technical report acknowledges it doesn't yet know the full cost, and they are basing corridor improvement costs on planning level cost estimates. Read the report. It won't be until phase two of the mobility plan is completed before the city knows the full cost of the mobility plan. And back in September of last year, that was estimated to not be completed for a year. Phase two of the mobility plan is where corridor and intersection improvements will be further refined in terms of the actual improvements to be undertaken, and the cost estimates will be updated. And as the city's mobility plan consultant indicated, this will likely require an update to the city's mobility fee. And that likely means the fee will increase. This can be found in both the cover letter to the mobility plan technical report and in the body of the mobility plan technical report. For illustrative purposes, let's look at Midway Road as an example. The city's mobility plan estimates the cost to widen the road from 2 to 4 lanes between Selvitz Road west to East Torino Parkway, which is approximately 1.32 miles, at a cost of $23.1 million. County staff estimates the cost to widen Midway Road from Selvitz west to Jenkins, which is just under 1 mile, at roughly $21 million. Significant difference. The city's consultant estimates it will take just over $23 million to go 1.32 miles, and this includes crossing the Florida Turnpike. County engineers estimate $21 million for a segment that is a third of a mile less and doesn't include the crossing. Again, this project is significantly underestimated in costs. Another example would be Glades Cutoff. The mobility plan identifies a 2-mile segment, Tradition Parkway extension to Range Line, at a cost of $9.6 million. County engineering staff estimates, excluding cost escalation factors related to the timing of the project, it will cost more than $10 million for 1 mile. The cost estimates are more than double the cost estimated in the mobility plan as prepared by the city's consultant. Circling back to the city, including county roads in the city's mobility plan. Responsibilities for the county roads belong to the county, and the Florida statutes support this. And when the city makes decisions that impact county roads, it's not just related to the construction costs. It ostensibly establishes a level of service and impacts future maintenance costs to be borne by the county taxpayers. For these reasons, that is why the legislature established a framework of responsibility and accountability for respective roads. The county is responsible for county roads, and the county has not and will not cede that authority to the city of Port St. Lucie, especially when their immediate and future decisions could bind the hands of the county. Decisions related to improvements and level of service are decisions that are vested with the Board of County Commissioners. The county's road impact fee is currently being updated in large measure due to legislative changes, as well as in response to the city adopting its mobility plan. Specifically, the county study is excluding city roads from our study. With the city roads being excluded, the result to those developing in Port St. Lucie for county road impact fees will be a significant reduction of the county's current road impact fees. With the county excluding city roads in calculating the county's road impact fee, similarly, the city should exclude the county's roads from its mobility plan. Remember, more than 23% or approximately $180 million of the city's mobility plan for corridor improvements is based on county roads. Thus, if the city removes the county roads from its mobility plan and the associated improvements related to the county roads for which they have no jurisdiction, the city's mobility fee should be reduced. Remove the county roads and the city's mobility fee will be less, just as the county's road impact fee will be less when we remove the city roads from our study. So what has happened in terms of the county commission? Clearly, the county commission recognized that the draft road impact fee study update would not be completed until around December. We have a copy of that, as I mentioned, it's on our website. But the county commission did adopt resolution 21-361, which provided for several things. And probably one of the most important was to direct a review of the data and as appropriate recommend road impact fee benefit zones for incorporation into the county's road impact fee ordinance. And our consultant, Negan Camp with Tyndale Oliver, is going to cover that. There was also some provisions in terms of escrowing the county road and park impact fees collected, until the county adopts the new impact fee ordinance. And if necessary, if funds were collected, we would, and there would, the amounts calculated come back that were less, we would refund those. Secondly, recognizing the city terminated the interlocal agreement with the county, which included a credit for the city road impact fees, which was roughly 25% of the amount that the county road impact fees. The county adopted a resolution providing a 25% discount of county road impact fees collected within the boundaries of the city of Port St. Lucie after October 5th and until the county's impact fee study was completed and adopted and implemented. Following a meeting with the Treasure Coast builders, in addition to meeting with several developers and builders, the county discontinued or actually suspended its alternative collection process that's established in our ordinance to collect county road impact fees. And we have since indicated that, and we will not resume the alternative collection process until the county commission, considers the updated or revised road impact fee ordinance. We feel this eliminates the confusion and the burdens that the development community has expressed to us and addresses the concerns of cash flow due to unplanned significant increases when the city's increased mobility fee rate compared to its former rate and it combined with the county's existing road impact fee. Our consultant, as I mentioned, Negan Camp with Tyndale Oliver, is going to be presenting the draft finding. I emphasize draft. The purpose of our informal meeting with the county commission, as well as this is the second of a public meeting, is to solicit comments from the public. The county has provided a draft of the road impact fee study update report to the cities and key stakeholders. I should note that the county has received comments from both St. Lucie Transportation Planning Organization and the City of Port St. Lucie's consultant. And both of their comments were entered into the public record at the county's January 11th special informal meeting of the Board of County Commissioners. Again, the intent of these meetings is to take comments and concern and as warranted, appropriately ensure the study is updated prior to the final road impact fee study update being completed and issued, which we anticipate will occur in early March. The city, from the outset, let me state this, the county's goal has been and will continue to ensure that the information data the board has is up to date and correct. And I would like to note that we've, we've listened and we've heard comments from the city. And to that end, the county has engaged a third-party firm to review the methodology and analyze the travel demand utilizing the recent version of the Treasure Coast Regional Planning Model, version 5, while at the same time, our prime consultant is analyzing the travel demand using the newer version of the planning model as well. I'd like to emphasize that, again, this is a public meeting in terms of to receive public comments. Our draft road impact fee study is available on the county's webpage. Again, www.stlucieco.gov/impact fees. Once the presentation is completed, we'll open up the chat box and take questions and comments. Or alternatively, if somebody would like, they can complete the online impact fee comment form. and submit it right through the county's website. I want to thank you in advance for your attendance and participation and your interest in this vitally important topic, for our community. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Negan Camp. And let me stop sharing and go ahead and bring up Negan's presentation. So give me 1 minute. And Negan, I'm going to turn this over to you with the controls. Just give us 1 minute. Negan, you have the controls now.
Oh, there we go. Okay. Good evening, everyone. I'm Negan Camp with Tyndall Oliver. We have a presentation, going through the background, technical analysis, addressing the benefit zones, and then the next steps. So impact fees by definition are a one-time capital charge to new development. Their goal is to cover the cost of new capital facilities, and they help implement capital improvement programs. Really, the main purpose of impact fees is maintaining the level of service. They calculate cost of growth, and they are most needed when there's high growth and limited alternative funding. Impact fees were governed by case law for a long time in Florida until 2006, when we had the Impact Fee Act passed. And then over time, since then, there were several changes to it. But some of its primary requirements include the use of most recent and localized data in establishing the fee rates, a minimum of 90-day notice for any fee increases. If there's any challenge, the government has the burden of proof. There's some accounting requirements and so on. In 2021, House Bill 337 passed, which put limits on fee increases. So if the fee is up to 25%, it has to be passed over 2 years. And then it cannot be increased more than 50%. And if it is up to 50%, it has to be over 4 years. There's an exception clause that says that if there's a study that shows that there are extraordinary circumstances, which are discussed at 2 public workshops and approved by the 2/3 of the governing body, then the fees can be increased more than that. Okay. In terms of the technical analysis, the study is using a consumption-based methodology, which is very common in Florida. It charges new growth based on the value of the transportation infrastructure that is consuming. And it is calculated at a level that it cannot generate sufficient revenues to address any existing deficiencies. So by that, it fulfills the requirement of not new development not paying for existing deficiencies. Oops. And then, of course, the study establishes the maximum fees, but then the board can always adopt the fees at a reduced rate. The basic, wait, it is skipped again, I'm sorry. So basic impact fee formula looks at cost to add capacity. From that, we subtract any non-impact fee revenues that will be generated by future development toward the same infrastructure, so that we are not charging for it twice. And that net cost gets multiplied by demand, which is the vehicle miles of travel for road impact fees. And the basic formula, the way the formula works is we start with the cost of a roadway. So 1 lane mile costs about $5.5 million. That carries a capacity of 9,600 vehicles. So the cost per vehicle mile of capacity is $570. So every time a vehicle is added to the roadway network, it's costing about $570 of transportation infrastructure. Average home generates 18 vehicle miles of daily travel. So those two numbers multiplied gives us the full cost, which is $10,200. And then from that, we subtract the credit 1,500, and that gives us the net fee of 8,700. Of those components, the demand component measures the trip generation rate. So how many trips daily is by each land use, how long those trips are, and how many of those trips are new trips because of that new development. So that those three variables are the basis of the demand side. And the data sources are the National Institute of Transportation Engineering Trip Generation Handbook, which is supplemented by studies, trip characteristic studies conducted in Florida that measures all three variables. And then we also use the model data to validate the trip length. On the cost component, we review historical projects. We look at the cost estimates that are included in the capital improvement plan and the long-range transportation plan. And then this data is supplemented by data from other Florida jurisdictions. So when we looked at the St. Lucie County's roadway costs, the most recent projects were really expensive projects. They are 7.7 million per lane mile, almost 10 million per lane mile, and they were not considered typical projects. These were projects that had the complicated features that increased the cost. When we look at the future estimates, it was about 4 million per lane mile. Again, had a couple of high cost projects. Excluding those, it was more about 2.2 million. When we look at projects throughout Florida for county roads, that average about 2.8 million. So given the sample size and some of the extreme projects in the county's work program as well as the historical, we ended up using 2.8 million to be on the conservative side. This chart shows the cost estimates by the DOT. So the blue line shows the DOT LREs, which we typically find it to be lower than the actual cost experienced by jurisdictions. The orange line shows District 7, which seems to have more current cost estimates. And then the dashed line shows the projects from individual counties, like the cost. So you can kind of see how the project line was going. So the county's current fee schedule is based on a county cost of 2.2 million per lane mile, and the new estimate is about 2.8 million. We went through the same process with the state roads. And again, the projects in St. Lucie County average 4.7 million. Throughout the Florida, they were about 4.1. And again, we looked at the LRE estimates as well as the actual projects. So the current fees are based on state road cost of 3.1 million. So that goes up to about 4.1 million. So this cost increases are the primary reason the fees are increasing. The costs are increasing about 45%, and then the credits at the same time is decreasing about 25%, indicating less funding available for transportation capacity. And whenever credit decreases, fees increase. So combined, overall increase is about 70%, and then any additional changes are due to the changes to the demand component. And again, this chart shows the change in the cost estimates by LRE. Again, last study was done in 2016. It was looking at 12, past 3, 4, 5 years. And then since then, costs continue to increase. So overall, in addition to construction costs, we look at the right-of-way, design, construction, engineering, inspection, for county roads, state roads, and blend them. So overall, the full cost that goes into our equation is estimated at about 5.5 million per lane mile. On the credit side, that includes all non-impact fee funding. It's primarily the state funding in this case. Most of the counties' fuel tax and sales tax are really being used more for maintenance operations, and going forward, the road impact fees are the primary source for the future expansion. So one question we get is the issue with transportation having a dedicated tax, which is the fuel taxes, and why are we always in need of additional funding? So fuel taxes, as you know, are on a per gallon basis, and they are not local taxes are not indexed, state pennies are indexed, and then other revenue sources like the sales tax ad valorem are indexed because they are based on percentages of the dollar value. So when we look at revenues overall, a penny in mid-90s is worth about half its value between the fuel efficiency and the inflation. So basically, fuel taxes are turning out to be a very inefficient revenue source. At the same time, while they are losing their value, the costs are increasing. So the gap in funding is continuing to be an issue. In the case of most jurisdictions, fuel taxes are now only sufficient to address maybe the maintenance needs. So overall, there is about an annual non-impact fee contribution of about 23 million. And as you can see, 22 out of that 23 is from state revenues. So there's very little county funding available for capacity. So again, using these figures, we develop a fee schedule, and this chart is showing some representative land uses. So the single family home mid-size would increase from about 5,100 to 8,600, and then there's some categories like office, light industrial just shown as reference. And this chart is showing the county's calculated fee, the existing fee, and then comparing to some of the other nearby counties. Here we wanted to show the study dates so you have an idea about how old some of these studies are, and also the assessed portions. That's again the policy decision. Not everybody adopts it 100%. So you can see for single family mid-size, these jurisdictions are charging anywhere from 2,800 to almost 10,000. The other thing we did to provide a more apples to apples comparison is to show that same counties, their more recent studies, what those calculated so that takes away the policy decision aspect of it. So it was more about 5,500 to about 10,000 range for single family home. In the case of the cities, when the fee is charged in the city, it gets an adjustment that excludes the travel on city roads. So we went road by road, segment by segment, to identify city, county, state roads, verified them with county staff. And right now we are updating that analysis using the version 5. Our original study was based on the previous version, and then the version 5 was published after our draft report was submitted. So now we are in the process of updating that. But with the previous version, basically Port St. Lucie's, in Port St. Lucie, the travel handled by the city roads was about 56%. So the rest would be collected by the county. And in Fort Pierce, it's about 4% by the city collector system, and the rest are non-city roadways. So the way the calculation works, this is again, single family example for Port St. Lucie. The cost component gets adjusted by 44%. That is not city roads. But then the entire credit is county and state credit. So there's really no adjustment there that carries through. So the final fee that county would collect in Port St. Lucie ends up being about a little less than 3,000, which is about 35% of the full fee as opposed to 45%. And then this chart is showing all three schedules, unincorporated county, Port St. Lucie, and Fort Pierce, what the county would collect, again, for the same representative land uses. Past 5 years, the road impact fees generated about almost 8 million. Now, even with the 100% fees, the county's fee will decline in Port St. Lucie, which is where about 80 to 90% of the permitting is happening. So then it's very likely that what the county collects will decrease. And it may be, maybe the higher level of permitting activity may offset some of that, but overall it's likely to decrease some. In terms of the benefit zones, currently county has a single zone in the mainland and then 3 additional zones at islands. So the proposed change would split the mainland into 3 zones. and then islands into 2 different zones. So it would be altogether 5 zones. And then the next steps, again, today we are here to answer any questions. And as John mentioned, there will be another informal VOCC meeting on February 22nd, and then a planning and zoning meeting, commission meeting in March, mid-March, and then the public hearings early to mid-April. With that, I'll turn it over back to John.
Stop sharing.
Thank you, Negan. So now we're going to open up the chat box for comments and questions. Please type those, and we will, again, as I mentioned, we have Negan here. We have Patrick Day, our Assistant Public Works Director, as well as Ben Balser, our Assistant Planning and Development Services Director. And we will certainly answer those questions as they come in. And, or as I mentioned, you could provide your comments online and the same www.stlucico.gov/impact fees. Okay, so there's a question here. Can Negan clarify the credit of $1,540 on the impact fee?
Yes, when we look at non-impact fee funding that's coming from new development, the portion that's coming from new development, that's equating that $1,540 for single family, and it's different depending on the how much travel each land use is contributing. So it's different for each land use. And if you have a copy of the report, that's shown in the final appendix in detail. So that's just basically, again, account for any future contributions from new development through other, through taxes and so on. So we are not charging them once through the impact fee and once through the taxes.
Does that answer your question, Teresa? Okay, so the next question is, when is the estimated time for updating the report due to the third-party reviewer? They are actually working concurrently. Tyndale Oliver has provided the information that they have to our third-party consultant, and they are working independently. They are reviewing the methodology. I know there was a comment that was made, as well as running the modeling independently. And again, we anticipate, we know how important this is to our community and to both the city and the county, to try to bring resolution to this. And so we have asked, and both our consultants have indicated that they would get their work completed, prior to that. We believe it's got first week of March, so we can get before the Planning and Zoning Board on March 17th. So I hope that answers your question. The current study excludes city roads. That was a direct request, during meetings with the city. And so that has been done in this study, and you can verify that, Negan.
Yes, the current draft report, yes, it does exclude the city roads when we calculate the fee in the city.
Okay, so I think this is more a statement. But I know there's some funds actually. We can get you a more detailed answer there. I believe that's Jonathan, but I know there's a commitment on behalf of the state or the in terms of that Midway Road interchange, but there's a large portion that will be funded not by tolls but by the county. But we can get you more detailed information on that. Okay, so then the future volume in Glades Road do not warrant widened to 4 lanes by 2045. Okay, that's more of a comment, or I don't think I have an answer for that one in terms of, I think there might be I think in your report, you note that, and that you note that, I guess you have a different outlook or opinion on that matter compared to what the county sees the needs to be. So, but we will look at, okay, the city may well request to show the percentage of request of traffic on city, county, state development road. The county has yet to do so this time. It is a big issue. I thought that Negan just presented the percentages of, and again, those are based on the old model, and they're reviewing that. And so I would believe that we would be able to get you those percentages, as requested. Is that, Negan, can you verify that?
Yes, I think they are shown in the report. Maybe the request was for more details, and that can be provided when it's updated. The other thing is the next comment. The comments that we received from you, the projects that you marked as city roads are also classified as city roads in our model. The table itself was really calculating capacity and had a titling issue. It should have been county/city. But in the model, we are in agreement with your classification of city roads. So that's not an issue. And then Midway, I think you can.
You are correct. I guess it's more of a statement. Midway Road and Glades, and as identified, as stated earlier, and I don't know if you joined at what point you joined the presentation, Jonathan, but we did note that for Glades in out years, I think it's $78.1 million. For Midway, it's like 88.6, and if I recall correctly, I just want to get you that correct information. So hang on one second. For Glades cutoff in this fiscal year, we will be expending, what is it? I think it's $4.5 million, and then in 26 another $2 million, and then the future 78.1, and then Midway Road was $3.5 million in 2022, and then 25 $8 million, and the future being 88.6. Let me just verify that. I don't want to, in case I have a senior moment, just give me 1 minute. So yes, I'm looking at, and I can pull that slide up if you want me to, but we'll certainly provide the presentation. But it's a document that we provided to the city and made available. But for Glades Road cutoff, as indicated, in 2022, $4.5 million. In 2026, $2 million. And then for the Midway, as I mentioned, there was $3.5 million in 2022. In fiscal year 2025, $8 million. And then the combined is almost $88.6 million. Could Negan please verify again for me? I understand this is future developer contributions. Negan, do you want me to share allow you to share so you can bring up maybe that slide that shows? Will that slide help?
Maybe. I think it's.
Can we make sure we give her the right to share? Oh, I need to bring it up. I'm sorry. Sorry, everybody. Okay, I think it's this one actually. And then we go. Tell me when to stop, Deegan.
Yeah, sure.
It's like it may have been.
Oh, I'm not sharing it. Okay, I'm sorry. I'm sitting here flipping through slides, everybody. I'm sorry. Share screen. Let's see, it's right.
I think it's in the formula, maybe.
Share. Okay, do this. Okay, and I think it's the one back. It's the credit component, correct?
Yes.
It's this one.
There it's.
So you want me to start here?
Go one more. To
Forward?
Forward, yeah. Forward. Okay, so I think it may have been in the original formula that we were showing, because here we are just showing how many equivalent gas pennies. So we basically take take the dollars that are coming from other revenues and convert it to fuel tax pennies, because this way we can relate it to travel. So, I mean, so that's kind of like the back end of that calculation. I think, John, toward the beginning of it, when we first talked about the formula, that's probably where we showed the dollar amount.
So I will go back and you tell me when to stop. I think I know where. Am I correct?
Yeah, no, one before. Or actually one after, I'm sorry. I got, yeah, there it is, this one.
Okay.
Keep, yeah, going. I think that's where you saw the, yeah. That's what it is, right? So that's, again, when we look at all the other revenue sources converted in their fuel tax equivalency, and then see how much each land use is traveling to quantify for a single family, it's ending up about 1,500. Is that the, I guess, is that the
So
question?
let me go to that chat box and. Teresa, does that help? Okay. So. Really appreciate these questions. And again, we have a transcript, obviously, and we'll make sure for those that, that we don't have an answer to, like I know the one that Jonathan mentioned earlier, we'll certainly circle back and get that information to you. I think that was on the funding, I'll just say the funding plan for Midway Road. I don't want to cut anybody off, but do we have any further questions, comments? So what I would like to say is, one, I want to thank everybody for that took the time to join us this evening and participate in providing comments and questions. And I also encourage you, to complete an online comment form if you haven't. And then, I want to do that. Teresa, I see your other question there about after the update report, any other public workshops. I think what's going to happen is after we get that, we are going to be providing that will be in time for, we will provide once we get that, we'll provide all our the cities and stakeholders a copy of that. And it will be going before P&Z. And then I guess we'll wait to get the comments to see if one is warranted. It might be maybe there's a smaller meeting that could occur. I don't know, because it seems like this meeting and the last meeting are just really us interested parties in the city and the county. But we certainly want to make sure that there's opportunity for people that want to comment, but we'll post it on the website, request comments or questions or related to it. But right now, there are no other planned public workshops other than the March 17th P&Z meeting. And then it would be going to, well, actually, there is a September 22nd, not September, that's okay, that's February 22nd special informal meeting, but we will not have the data in by then. But so that then it would be March 17th before P&Z, and then the two public hearings being on February 5th and February 19th. That's where we are right now as of this moment, Teresa. And I'll be sure to provide, you don't have to email me, I'll provide you a copy of the presentation this evening. So seeing no other comments, we'll go ahead, and it's 7:05 and we'll go ahead and end the meeting. Again, I want to thank you all for attending. We appreciate your interest and your input. It's valued and appreciated. Have a wonderful evening.